upgrades that I did using the Ego 56-volt battery. Definitely powerful enough for an adult, and enough for an adult to have a good time. So that's what it looks like before you do anything to it. And this is what I did here. You can see that we got a Dune Buggy stock. The specs here, 24-volt system, heavy, got a 250-watt motor on most of them, sometimes 350. They're all brushed. At the end of the video, I'll talk about our brushless, by the way. And then the thumb throttles is what it starts out with. There's a little bit of a suspension. It's not that much, but it's enough just to break a little bit of the vibration that may break your frame if somebody heavy's on it, like me. So that way with the spring, it helps to keep it intact. These are some upgrades that I did, but it didn't work out. I used new lead acid batteries. I used 3 of them. They made it really heavy, so I didn't like that too much. The Ryobi 40-volt knockoff didn't last very long. The solar trickle chargers were just cumbersome and really didn't do much. Certainly didn't work very well with the lithium batteries I ended up adding. The 36-volt controller with the 56-volt battery, it burned it up. I was actually running down the street, and I smelled something burning, and of course it was my wires in my controller, and it burned in the on position. So I kept going, and I wasn't pushing on the throttle, and I was going at max speed, and it wasn't a good time. So I turned around. I was able to go up the hill and make it a little bit harder for the motor, and then use the brakes and then the kill switch that I had installed, luckily. So don't make the same mistake I did. Make sure your controller matches your battery. That inspired me to do my homework and make sure my amps were matching each time, and my battery management system was not going to cause any fires or anything like that. So this is the result of all that. Don't use automotive style keys if you're going to leave it outside, because the stuff will corrode and they'll eventually fail. And the type of connectors are really, really important, I think, to keep it reliable. Under tightening the wheels can be a bad idea because the valve stem will knock off, as you see in this picture here, because it basically will spin around and the valve stem will just knock right off. These are the 3 types of tool batteries I use. They're all lithium. I like them all, but they have different applications. So the blue one, this cobalt battery, the cobalt battery is good for like slow. If you wanted to have your kid ride it and you to be around, you could chase them and still and still be safe about it, not have to worry about them running into where vehicles would be, that kind of stuff. And then if you wanted them to go faster, if you were on a track or something like that where other cars would not be, then you could put the 40-volt on there. Your kid could outrun you. Or if you want to, put a 56-volt on there, and you have to have special stuff to handle those. At 48-volt would be the minimum on there. So marine style keys also prevent corrosion. These are the connectors for the battery into the controller. I like to use the female connector, so I would reduce the chance of me shorting out the battery inadvertently. These were awesome. These Sopa solder connectors, they're heat shrink with solder in the very middle of them. So all you have to do is put 2 wires together and put the heat shrink thing over it. And in the middle of that solder, all you have to use is a heat gun, not a solder gun, but a heat gun. It's kind of like a blow dryer. You get at Harbor Freight for like 30 bucks. And it will just melt the solder and hold the wires tight together. And they're super dependable in the weather and everything. Just fantastic. I wish I'd known about this at the very beginning. And then this self-using silicone tape, it's better than electrical tape because it sticks to itself. It doesn't have any adhesive residue, and it's really great for insulating the wires. All right, it's a little expensive though. It's 20 bucks for a roll. Then our upgrades for the cart number 1. So I have 3 carts. This is cart number 1. The process that I did just to kind of show you that I was enjoying the upgrade process and learning along the way. So it started out with that 24-volt lithium, the cobalt battery. I kept that 250-watt motor that was stock. It was pretty slow, good for my 3 to 4-year-old. And then I upgraded to the 40-volt Ryobi. Still kept that 250-watt stock motor, and that was good enough for my kid when he was 5. But the motor could burn up pretty easily with a little extra pushing on it. So going up a hill, up the bumps and stuff like that were harder on the motor, and we burned up one. Then there was a 56 volt 1000 watt motor change that I did, and I really like that one, but it's got a top speed. Top speed's limited to about 8 to 10 miles an hour, and although fun for the little kids, it's really not that fun for the adults. So I wanted to take it a step further, and I went to 56 volt with a 1800 watt brushless motor, which is different. So I had to change some of the switches and stuff like that. And that went up to 17 miles an hour. So awesome. And then I added a potentiometer to slow it down where I needed to. That enables people of all ages to be able to ride it, including fun for adults. I like it. You do look a little bit like a clown in a car because you're a little bit too big for the size, but it's nice because it fits in the back of your SUV or whatever, and you don't have to worry about getting a truck or a trailer to haul your stuff. Um, and who gives a crap what everybody thinks when they're watching it? I've seen some Power Wheels Facebook groups, Power Wheels for adults, so grown-ups riding Power Wheels that are modded and whatnot. So to each his own. So cart one, I ripped out the seat belts, the batteries, the switch. As you can see, all the stuff here turned into this. And then really fancy animation here. This is what I added. Fancy yellow animation. That's where it goes. All right, and I added the lithium battery. That was that next step I talked about. 40 volts. We called it beast mode. He went so fast, I couldn't keep up. But still too weak for an adult. So, and these were I had to get a battery adapter. So if you're looking for one, that's what one looks like. Um, and then if you want to stay safe, stay with the Cobalt. This is it in action, and the fun it yields. Then here we have the Kart 2 upgrade. We painted it. I went with a battery from eBay that had no, it's from Amazon. From Amazon, and it's 36 volt, 10 amp hour, so a good length out of it. But it wasn't all that powerful because it was a whole 36 volt setup, so not enough push to provide the juice to move you along so much. I had, of course, had to match the controller, and what was nice about this battery is it had a charger in with it, so I could just package the charger with it, and wherever we went, I could just plug it in. But what it ended up doing was being so weak of a charge because it would discharge on its own, just sitting out. If I didn't leave it plugged in, it would not be ready for a ride when I was. And we'd put on a 650 watt motor, not volt. It's 36 volt, 650 watt, um, and that came from an MX 650. It was normally found on those, and those are the ones I think they're like $700. A little, it's a pretty small like motorcycle it comes from. So it's capable of putting on of carrying an adult, but not too well. And of course, you've got a heavier frame with the go-kart, so you've got to contend with the power on that one. I tried the twist throttle, but the U-shaped steering wheel, not good for that. So I switched to the pedal from Amazon. I definitely prefer the plastic one over the metal one, even though the metal one's more expensive. And if you ever get one of these motors, by the way, on this page, this one didn't have a mount on the bottom, so just pay attention to that when you're buying. The mounts are really nice. Otherwise, you have to fashion a mount out of sheet metal, and it takes a lot of extra effort. Fun in the process to some extent to figure it out, though. My older kid riding that cart number 3. The 1000 watt motor I went with, the 48 volt controller, battery and adapter, as you see here, these are the ones we went with. Definitely a workhorse, powerful enough to go with an adult, but like I said, not fast enough. Then I went with a 1000 watt motor on cart number 2, like I did on cart number 2. And then I took some Ego battery housing that I got off eBay or Facebook or something like that, and I cut it in half because it was 2 battery housings with that little clip. I took some of the that little black thing with the pins in it from some old chargers. And so I had basically two brand new battery housings for it, and it would just slide right in and clip in, which is really important, the click in part, because otherwise you have to have gravity keep it in place, and as you can see in that image there. Okay, and this is what they look like today. The one on the left, you have uh, the gravity extra battery spot, and then also the Ego slide-in one from the snowblower. You've got the marine style key that's resistant to corrosion. I did add a flip down um, bag so they can all go to, do a picnic or whatever. We can go get fast food, take it to the park, that kind of stuff. Good times. This right here, I left the old Ryobi one on there because I just didn't replace it yet. This is a much larger controller. That's for the 1800 watt brushless, and that's what's inside of here. Super fun. This right here is the same as those snowblower ones, except for this came from a leaf blower and it clips in as well. So you don't have like the upper part of the housing to keep this black thing out of the way, the cutout that I did on all of them. And as you can see, this is what it looks like when you actually have the battery on the gravity one as an extra. And the way I have it wired is so that they both are wired down here. I just have to switch the little connector at the bottom if the battery does run out. Fortunately, so far I haven't had the batteries run out. If you use a 10 amp hour battery, the life is super long, even with me on it at that 17 miles an hour. So great stuff. And some just kind of miscellaneous stuff. I put a reverse switch on the ones that have brushes on them. I did put a reverse switch on the brushless one, but it's different. And that's just because it comes with the controller comes with a little switch.